All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome again to our weekly Magento Community PWA series. We've got a action-packed agenda as always, and so for this week, I know we missed last week. We've got content this week around some FAQs from Mr. Kalkoben. Ravant has some updates on page builder image handling as well, and then I'm going to walk a little bit more through the latest on the product roadmap. No major changes, but just want to talk about what we're working on and what's next. We're going to start looking at these meetings and I would say bringing more feedback and more grooming back to kind of where we were in the past year or two, and so looking to bring that in, help us shape kind of near term objectives. Also looking at opportunities to help drive contribution as well. We had a lot of great feedback, and we had a couple folks pick up some key functionality at events like MageConf with the contribution day there for that, but looking to do more of that one. And so we're going to make that more part of this agenda. And of course, if you have any feedback, questions, etc., you know where to reach us. And so with that in mind, I'm going to hand it off to James, and he's going to walk us through some updates on the FAQ for contribution.
It's not so much an update; it's more of a reminder.
Reminder, sorry.
Yeah. Let's see. Do share my screen. I think I have to restart. Can you skip me for now? Because I just updated to Catalina, so I have to do all this permission stuff.
No worries. Very good. Ravantha, do you want to walk through some of the page builder updates then?
Yeah, that works for me. Let me share the screen. Okay, I hope you can see the screen right now.
Yep, looking good.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Here is the page builder issue that I was working on before. So what used to happen was, if you look at develop, for instance, I've loaded the app and I'll go offline. And if I refresh, you can see that the images are missing in the page builder content. But then the other content just works fine. And this was probably because if you look at the changes in the service worker, we used to have a route where we were looking for only catalog images, like resized catalog images. So all we did was move that to not only look for catalog images and look for every image that's possible, that's available in the app. And if it's a resized image, just handle it. That's the only change we made, and pretty much everything else is like a test change, like a test updates. And here, instead of checking for if it's a catalog image, we are just looking for whether if it's an image. And we do the exact same checks, and it goes directly into the same exact cache. So if you look at this example, this is the deployed app for this particular PR, and I've loaded the app. If you go offline, and if you refresh, it works fine. So the only change we did was we were not looking for catalog images anymore. We were looking for every image possible in the app. So if you get this update, you might see more cache storage. Like it's 8 MB right now here in this app. And if you look at this app, the images are not like condensed at this point, like they're not compressed at this point. But if it is, I checked it on the other instance that I have, it's actually 6.9 MB or something. But in this case, it's probably 8 MB. So there will be an increase because we are actually storing more images than previously, but that's expected. The PR is open right now, and everyone can go ahead and look at it. If you have any comments, you can just leave a message down there. Any questions on that, guys?
Looks great,
I'll take it
Ravant.
as
Yeah,
an
that was a big
Yeah.
one. I think for those who are starting to see this with Page Builder, I think this addressed a very specific need, and so appreciate you jumping on this
Yes.
one and sharing it with the team. So
Awesome. Anything for the team? Thank you so much, Eric.
great, thank you. All right, Mr. Kalkoben, how is
I'm
your
back.
system doing? All right.
Let me see if I can share my screen. All right. Y'all see my browser?
Looking good.
Cool. All right. So, like I said, this is just a reminder to everyone that we do have frequently asked questions page. this page is completely community driven. So I guess this is me asking for contributions because you know you all are more in tune with the solutions and questions that are going on in the Slack channel, and we do our best to monitor it, but things can get past us. So if you see any commonly asked questions or questions that get repeated often enough in the Slack channel, feel free to update or create a PR to update this page with any solutions that get posted there. Yeah. Any questions for that? Nope.
Yep. Looks good. Looks good, James. Yeah, I think on this one too, I think we can work with the community here, but also even Lars and Jordan to maybe find some specific tickets or others for this. And I think just like anything else, I think I think we can look and go, all right, that makes a lot of sense. But then as we just even carve out very small bite-sized work items, that gives folks an opportunity, especially. And again, we've had this conversation. I see Jordan here as well. Like, what does it mean to be kind of a first-time contributor? What is a great kind of great starting point for that? So Docs PRs are fantastic for that.
Yeah.
And so, as we look for some of these, maybe we can get some help even helping to kind of groom and identify a few of these. And then we can also keep a close eye on chat, because I know we often get the same questions on things like server-side rendering and other things like that I think we've got a handle on, but we can always expand, right? And so
Right.
so I think, yeah, good reminder, and I think also probably a reminder for ourselves, which we'll cover here in the community backlog, for some bite-sized items for folks to kind of take a look at, like, your traditional good first issues, right? So Docs is a great way, for sure. Perfect. Any other questions or comments on this or the page builder updates from Ravan?
Nothing, Eric. Sounds to be fine from my end.
All right. Very good. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about the product roadmap, the backlog, and a survey that relates to some of this around operating systems. I think some of you have seen online here. And so, as everybody knows, it's election week in the States, and so we had to have our own election around operating systems, around the developer experience, right? And so let's take a look at what we have here, and we'll see if it is too soon to call, so to speak. And so. So let's go through the roadmap here.
Sorry, I can't handle more of this. No more. Please.
That's right. It's just operating system. It's okay. It's okay, Andy. We'll have it all covered. Don't worry.
Look,
all choices will be
next week, is it?
It won't. It ends like in a couple hours. We're good. It'll be fine.
I'm just messing with you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, I know. I know. It's fair. So let's talk. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the roadmap. One of the questions we get very often, and again, we've had a lot of great conversations, and we've been fortunate enough to be part of several events in the past couple of weeks around Adobe Dev Live, MageConf, Meet Magento New York, and really have had some nice follow-ups around that. So the biggest question we often get is, okay, great, this is all wonderful, but when is feature XYZ coming, right? And so I think, one of the things that we're committed to doing is putting together a regular update of the roadmap. This is something we have on GitHub that we continue to publish. As many of you know, because you see a lot of familiar faces on here, this continues to change. It's an aspect of our own velocity. It's an aspect of contribution, et cetera, et cetera. But just wanted to walk through essentially how we're looking as we close out the calendar year in the next couple weeks for 2020 and maybe some adjustments heading into 2021. So kind of going through this top down, we've made a lot of good strides on areas like internationalization and localization. We've done a couple demos in the past couple weeks. And so this started off as a fantastic contribution from Chris and the Absolute Net, and was really landed more recently with the team and Thule and others that have started to demo this, and you can already see it in the develop branch. So that's really, really good news. Multi-store, we're just getting started on, though. We've had some really great work. We've brought on, for those who haven't heard, we brought on Elena to really help us dig into to product types and a few other areas as part of the product efforts for this. And so you're going to start to see this get off the ground here fairly shortly. This is a key piece of functionality that is uniquely Magento, too. So the idea of kind of traversing through the various views as it relates to this is often a point of customization with their earliest adoption. But as we start to get a little bit more, I would say, defined, I'd like to use this forum a little bit more and look at follow-ups to make sure that we're doing it well. We've had a couple conversations around this. This is, of course, very related to internationalization and localization, but we also want to make sure that, again, we use this time in just as much grooming as demos. And so look for more to come on that one, but just know that that is in development, but there'll be some work to begin here fairly shortly on that. Extensibility, that was the big one that Zetlin had landed, but we've had some great, I would say, some great progress from both Lars, but also Marcin recently. He published some work overnight, who's been a great contributor in helping us understand the future of extensibility, and so that one's in good shape. And then Lighthouse optimizations, we just recently groomed that internally, so look for some improvements around the V6 Lighthouse optimizations as a whole to start coming in. And so we're on track for that one. But again, that's just something more of what we're doing, but look at that as a burst of work to help us when you start to think about Google Lighthouse scores, but specifically on performance. And again, for a lot of us, we're really trying to address a lot of those V6 changes, especially around performance, but also things like core web vitals as well. The next piece I think is also of particular interest. So my account. So one of the decisions we made as a team and working with them in the past, I would say 2 or 3 weeks, is to start breaking up these into smaller and smaller epics. The work itself is the same, but if you look at my account as a whole, it is in its right a pretty massive piece of work. We've made really good progress. We're probably just a few weeks away for completion. You're already seeing this in the development branches, but there's going to be one area of this that we uncovered is still going to need GraphQL coverage, which is wish lists. So we're starting to break this out. You'll start to see work that supports not just like these large mega epics, but really starting to get into epics that support that. And I think that gives everybody a little bit more granularity, but it also on kind of what, when. But I think it's going to be really important for us to understand and move faster as a release. We've been tied to the Magento core releases for the very beginning. That's helped us stay compatible with GraphQL. But we're looking at any and all opportunities to be more nimble and work as independently as we can. So in order for us to do that, our stories and our definition has to be somewhat independent as well. So, thematically, it's really the same, but as part of that, just as a heads up, wish list is going to move into next year, early next year, based on the GraphQL coverage. It's going to be landing in 242, which is going to be in February. So, but progress will still be made in that one, but just a quick update on that. The last one here is product recommendations. And so this one is actually in development. This is a great piece of work that's happening with our friends in the partner acceleration program. So we've got some key partners working on this right now. That is in development. You may see some of that this year in the develop branch as that comes together, but that is likely going to be more GA in the first quarter or so next year. So there may be something for you to use. We've had some interesting conversations and chat on this one. But as far as that actually landing, and it's a good point of reference, right? We'll land something like internationalization or localization that's available now, but we want to find ways for that not to have to depend on, in this case, 242, the next release for that one. So we're looking at ways to really deliver faster value in the releases themselves. Product recommendations will be very similar. That works in progress, being done by the team that handles that. But that should be coming along pretty soon. And then 2021 is no different. There's a lot of work ahead of us. I would say the areas that are going to be most immediate are going to be around product type support. I think we've got good definition around things like grouped, virtual, and downloadable. We've got the UX team has done a fantastic job. Scott here on the call has done really well on putting together what that concept looks like. I think we may have shared that at previous demos. But we're going to get started on that fairly soon, in the next couple weeks. And so you'll look for some progress on that, and then we'll come back around to bundled. These, of course, are all available in GraphQL. And then some of these other ones, we're gonna look for some help from the community. I saw that Marcin recently picked up the mega menu, which you'll see in a lot of the early launches, but it is yet to kind of make Venia. So we're hoping to accelerate that with the help from the community, and we'll show you that in the backlog here shortly. And then start to hit areas like accessibility, where in general our scores are in the 90s, but there's a little bit of work we want to do from an automated standpoint. Those will probably be really good tickets from the community to kind of address one piece at a time. And then for things like push notifications, we sort of have them from an add to home and kind of prompting standpoint, but there's a lot of work I think we can do really even larger than this project around push notification as it relates to order management, delivery. And we can get into some interesting conversations around like offline experiences and such. And so that's that's kind of work to be coming next year. But that the UX definition will start, but that's a little bit further away. Even further away are going to be areas like B2B. So we talk a lot about that. The B2B coverage itself in GraphQL is going to be, the majority of that is landing in 242 in February, and so we're going to pick that up. The work really will only start to begin in there. We don't have a clear date in terms of the completion. We do want to work with the team. So Mark Brenton on our side is starting to lead this. He's been doing a lot of B2B work over the past few years, and so the design work is well underway. I'm looking, maybe an opportunity to share that at some point. But we still need to finish up the B2C pieces first, and so no true definitive ETA on that one. But know that we're trying to break that up in a way we can start to phase this. And then the reality is that hasn't stopped some of our earliest launches, and so we've got Selco is a great example. Watsco has launched in dev and should be launching soon, and a few others that have done B2B already. We just want to make this a bit more off the shelf and ready to use for future launches. Things like in-store pickup support will come at some point. We may lean on those teams or maybe the community to help out with that. The GraphQL is done, actually, in many ways was delivered with 2.4. We'll get to there once we get past things like product types and multi-store and some of the areas that are at the moment higher priority than that. And of course, things like ratings and reviews. More work to be done there, but there's some partner solutions that we've seen, whether they be part of larger themes like the GoMage theme or others that will suit you in the meantime, but we eventually will come back around to that. From a product standpoint. So anyways, I just want to spend a little bit of time on this one. This continues to be somewhat fluid based again on the velocity of the team, the community, et cetera. But I just want to make sure this is part of our conversation. We'll just talk about this from time to time, and then we'll also put up the latest numbers that we often talk about events, and probably not enough here, like the number of launches we've seen to date, which is 54, and the number of extensions that we've seen third party, which is roughly about 20 or so, and of course, contributions, et cetera. So we'll be a little bit more operational, I think, in this one, but we'll also use this as a means to understand what's next, what should we consider bringing in, and again, for some of these really, really big kind of classic Magento features and functionality, we'll want input on this team in some cases before even code begins on that one. And so that'll be, I think, a useful use of this time, but look for that. And, as we start to pick these up on Fridays in the future. All right. So I promised no PowerPoint on this one, but I may have talked it like it was PowerPoint on this. Any questions on the roadmap itself? Any feedback on the things that we just discussed here relative to some of these timelines, the sequencing, and the grouping here?
How do we get to that page?
That's a great question. So this page is right off the GitHub repository. It is this link right here called Roadmap, and I do believe I've got a Bitly link. I think it's Bitly/PWA-roadmap, but I'll double check that and send that out afterwards. So, and it may be, if we're fortunate, maybe actually at the top of the chat, but I have to double check that. So, good question though. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a couple of in the chat. I don't see gift cards on the roadmap for product type support.
Yeah, let me double check the team backlog on that one. That is something that's available in GraphQL, I do believe, and so let me double check that one. So that could be a miss on this particular view. So good call out, Chris.
Okay. And then the second question's around the work on accessibility.
Yep.
The Lighthouse ranking doesn't mean a lot with regards to accessibility.
Right.
So do you guys have like target compliance goals? Like we cap to A, AAA.
Yep.
Where are we targeting there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what we're going to be doing around accessibility will hit two different marks, and totally agree. I think we want to look at this from an automated and a manual perspective. And so in partnership with our Adobe accessibility teams, our goal is to have a proper manual and professional audit at some point early next year, right? And so we're finalizing our 21 plans, and in that will be a variety of tickets, a variety of work that needs to be done. But at the moment, automated is probably our best opportunity. But yeah, fully agree, that's probably only a piece, and really is only a piece of the baseline that we need to achieve. So we're going to start at least with the part that we know, and then the time and the audit that will take place for both this and the back end. There's another refresh of that with our peers over in Adobe Accessibility, who are very big champions and very big advocates for this. And so you'll see more of that with some items that are uncovered with, again, experts and really third parties that just do this all the time, which we've done traditionally with the Magento 2 platform for that. So a little bit more early next year, on that one, but the goal is to hit all of those marks because yeah, we see these in opportunities all the time, and we just want to do our best with the baseline version of these products, knowing that they can be customized, extended, etc. So that's our at least point of view on that one in particular.
Okay,
But
thanks.
it's a good call. Yep. And yeah, good reminder on the gift card. So we'll dig into that one a little bit more. I know the coverage is ready for that. So perfect. Any other questions or any other questions in chat? Sorry, I can't see that as I'm sharing screen at all at the same time. All right. Well, very good.
Yeah,
If there are any other questions,
sorry,
go ahead,
Eric. Yeah, there is one. Surreal. Would it be possible to extend reviews thanks to GraphQL or integrate some extension like Yapo?
Yeah, I mean, the Yapo example is a really good one. So in the very earliest days of Studio, before many of us even had joined the project, Inshu integrated Yapo with PWA Studio themselves. They extended themselves. The feedback from them that it was fairly straightforward to do because those are somewhat independent. They haven't necessarily been blockers, and we've seen some of these in the earliest launches. We've seen Trustpilot and a few others that are done. They're now part of the GoMage themes, just top of mind. So yeah, it is definitely possible, and the belief is that the ability to do so, even if the traditional Magento reviews and the work that's coming in via the GraphQL API is available, the ability to do that a little bit more turnkey with one of these third parties is actually pretty straightforward. But as part of 2021, we're going to be asking more of them. Same thing with payments and others as we start to move more and more of these and have a bigger presence in things like the marketplace, et cetera. So it's a good question. But if you're working on something right now, the feedback I've heard even from the earliest days is that it's fairly straightforward to accomplish, and we've seen a few demos specifically with Yotpo in that Inshu example. But I'll double check that.
There's one more here in the chat. In terms of Lighthouse optimizations, what can be improved a little bit more concrete? Our current project on dev reaches 88 and 91 in Lighthouse.
Yep. So I may defer to the team on this. We just recently groomed it. I don't have the notes in front of me. I know we're looking at this from a variety of ways at the client side, but also the server side as well. Is anyone we talk to at least some of the things that we're looking at immediately and kind of share with the group here?
That's a good point. I should probably have that top of mind too. We did just decompose this into stories. Yep. It might take me a minute to actually find that though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, top of mind, I remember we're looking at I believe some bundling techniques to make that a bit improved. We also have an outstanding Webpack 5 upgrade, and of course also React 17 as well. So there's a couple things there that we think we may get a few lifts here and there. But there's also going to be some compression, yeah. So yep.
And yeah, if y'all have things that you've done in your dev projects, like definitely let us know.
Yeah. One of the tricks, if I remember right, during that grooming session is that to what degree do we want to offer this as a switch on the client side and or this, because you can control it on kind of both sides of that. So the idea, I think the belief is that we'll have at least these as options on the client side. But if you have a solution that kind of does some of this again, especially images and others on the server side, regardless of hosting, whether it's Magento Cloud or otherwise, it can be done either way. So we have to be a little bit flexible on that one, which sometimes makes demos and others a little bit more, I think, maybe less realistic than what you would see in production for that one. But we want to offer those as options for sure. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Very good. Good discussion. This is really what I'm hoping to see in the next couple of weeks. We should really be cognizant of not only what and when are happening, which gets, we address all the time, but also how. Like we want the community to continue shaping the product, even with things like performance and multi-store and other things like that. And so that'll help us move faster and really continue to make progress on these key areas for Venya, but really just PWA Studio and Magento as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about where everybody can help. So this is the latest community backlog. This also has a bit.ly link that we can post in Slack. I believe this is also bit.ly/PWA-backlog. So you'll start to see a a trend here. At the moment, it's it's fairly modest, but we made some really good additions just before MageConf on a couple key areas that would help the improve the app experience of Venia itself. We've made some changes, obviously, to branding, and we had a couple contributions already picked up that are moving their way across the board. I did mention earlier the mega menu work. So Martian looks like he picked this up relatively recently, either before or just after um, MageConf itself, and so he's going to help us take a look at this. It sounds like, and so we'll work with him on what that looks like, which will be great. So we think about that really as improved desktop support, but this is an experience we see with early launches already, which is good. So that'll continue to move, and then again, as we mentioned, there we're going to be looking at opportunities with DevDocs as we see some of these automated audits for things like accessibility, performance, and others. You'll start to see more tickets move their way from backlog all the way through prioritized and others. And so having some conversations with Jordan and Lars and others, there's an opportunity to find ways for others to get started on this one. And so whether it's just fixing particular bugs or finding kind of these really kind of small bite-sized pieces, I think are a great way to get started. And then if you're feeling ambitious, like Marcin here, bring in, take a look at what we've got here with Mega Menu. We've got a great UX that Scott put together recently. This in particular, you can kind of see what we're thinking about for this. We've got some red lines here. It's enough to get started, right? And so take a look at that. And if you're feeling as ambitious as Martin, you can always take a look at those, and we'll have a variety of those based on the mix there. So, and obviously, if you have any questions, please feel free to add those in comments. And as you're interested in picking these up, kind of virtually raise your hand and pick those up as needed. So. Any questions on the backlog itself? I just want to at least drive some awareness here, but also some awareness on some of the items that are starting to make some traction with the recent events. All right. Well, we'll finish as I promised. We finished off with an election poll, so to speak. So this topic came up in kind of our discussions last week. One of the things that we want to make sure is that we have the best possible developer experience. Again, we think about the developer, the partner, and the merchant experiences all across the board. And this started off very much with the developer experience focused. We're now quickly moving into merchant, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start thinking about development environments and operating systems, we want to make sure that the work that we're doing fits the need for what we feel like are the key operating systems for this one. So just a very simple poll this week. It looks like Mac OS is the leading on this one. Too soon to call, so we do have 5 hours left. But Linux is a close second, and Windows is coming along as well. Windows is of course an interesting one because you can use a bit of an embedded Linux approach. But as we start to think about tools, Lars of course today he is not able to join us today, but he put together an extension for VS Code already. As we start to think about what this means on a day-to-day basis, we want to hear your feedback. And that feedback, of course, will apply to a variety of these operating systems. And of course, as Stefan had mentioned, Docker as well. So as we think about the three phases, the major phases of the product: build, optimize, and deploy, that build piece is going to be really important, and how you use it, how we make that easier. And we've done such a nice job with kind of the PHP world of Magento. We want to start bringing that to the React world with what we're doing around front end as well. So let us know your feedback. This gives us at least a good starting point as we start to prioritize anything remaining on these. In this case, making sure that we don't forget things like Windows, and we do make sure we spend as much time with Linux as we do with Mac OS and others. And so, anyways, I appreciate everybody for participating. Looks like we had about 200 to date, which is awesome. And we'll continue to start doing some of these overall, and just make these a bit more interactive. Because as you can imagine, your feedback shapes the product in the process. So I do appreciate that. So that's really what we had for this week. I know it's been 2 weeks. We continue to make a lot of progress. The team is very, very busily working on a lot of things we've just talked about, whether it's getting multi-store off the ground, working in some performance pieces, rounding out a couple areas as well. But we're here to help, and again we've got some work to do, but we're really encouraged by the adoption, the participation, and the help here, and so that's really what drives us. That all said, is there anything else from a roundtable perspective that we want to cover? Any other questions, comments before we wrap it up for this week? All
There
right.
is one thing in the chat here. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I'll finally
That's
get a chance to take a look at this.
Chris says we're currently using OS X primarily, but the entire company may switch to Windows with
interesting.
WSL2.
Interesting. There you go. Well, we can't forget them then for sure, especially with those considerations. So, very good. Excellent. Well, thank you again, everybody. We appreciate it. Again, enjoy the rest of your week. And for those like Jordan who are well ahead and closer to the weekend than ourselves, enjoy your weekend. Thanks again for everything that you do. And if you need anything, let us know. As Andrew, Tommy, and many others have said before, don't forget to honk and subscribe, as we say. And we'll talk soon. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Eric.
All right. See you.
Bye bye.